So, if you're a developer here in early 2026, you've got to be feeling a little overwhelmed, right? I mean, the whole AI coding landscape has just exploded, and picking the right tool for the job, it's never been more important or honestly more confusing. Okay, let's dive in and really unpack these AI coding wars.
It really all kicked off in late 2025 with what I've started calling the AI deluge. I mean, just look at this timeline. It was nuts. Within just a few short weeks, it was bam, bam, bam. Anthropic dropped Claude Opus 4.5, then Google came out with Gemini 3 Pro, and just when you thought you could catch your breath for the holidays, OpenAI unveils GPT 5.2 Codex. It was this insane, rapid-fire blitz that just left everyone's head spinning. And that right there created the classic paradox of choice. We're talking about a dead heat between absolute titans of the industry. All of these models are incredibly good. So how in the world are you supposed to pick a clear winner? Well, that's the big question we're going to tackle. All right, first up, let's get into the battle of the benchmarks. This is the official story, the polished, perfect numbers that the AI labs want you to see.
Now, the one benchmark that really matters these days is called SWE-bench. And this isn't some sterile, made-up lab test. No. This is the gold standard because it uses 500 real GitHub issues from huge popular projects. Think Django, scikit-learn. It's testing if an AI can actually fix real bugs in the kind of messy, complex code bases we all work in every day. So, how did they stack up? Well, at first glance, it is a photo finish. Claude Opus 4.5 squeaks by at 80.9%, which is a huge deal. It's the first model to ever break that 80% barrier. But then you have GPT 5.2 Codex breathing right down its neck at 80% flat. We're talking less than 1 percentage point. On paper, they look like they're in a statistical dead heat. So you look at that and you think, okay, case closed, it's a tie, right? Well, not so fast, because when you start to dig just a little bit deeper, the story gets way more interesting. And this is where the plot really thickens. When you look closer, you start to see where each one specializes. Take a look at those top two rows. On the really tough coding and math problems, GPT 5.2 is an absolute beast. I mean, a perfect 100% on math reasoning? Come on, that's incredible. But then you glance down at Terminal Bench, and wow, Claude just crushes it. We're talking a massive 11-point lead. For anything DevOps, it's a no-brainer, and for multilingual projects, same story. Claude leads the pack there too. So the benchmarks tell us what they're good at, but they don't really tell you how they feel to work with. For that, we gotta leave the numbers behind and jump into the real world. This is the developer's story. Developers who are in the trenches with these things every day say they have these totally distinct personalities. Think of Claude as your senior architect, right? The code is beautiful, it's well thought out, but man, can it be a bit chatty? Sometimes it just over-engineers things. GPT 5.2, on the other hand, is like your brilliant, focused specialist. It's lightning fast, super logical, but because it's so laser-focused, it might miss some of the finer details, like an API version, meaning you might have to do a little more cleanup work yourself. Yeah, this one developer just hit the nail on the head. They said, Opus 4.5 feels like a senior engineer who cares about clean architecture, but sometimes over-explains. I mean, that's perfect, right? You get this amazing, well-structured code, but you also might get a whole essay explaining it. And the comparison for GPT 5.2 is just as spot on. Codex acts like a brilliant mathematician who will solve the problem but might over-engineer the implementation. It's going to solve the puzzle, no doubt, but the solution might be this incredibly intricate machine when all you really needed was a simple lever. Okay, but we've been forgetting someone, haven't we? What about Google's Gemini 3 Pro? Well, it turns out Gemini has carved out this amazing niche as the undisputed UI artist of the group. When people put it head-to-head with the others to build a game clone or copy a Figma design, Gemini won, hands down. The visuals were just better. And here's the kicker. The code it writes is the easiest to maintain, the least complex. So the takeaway here is super simple. If you are doing anything on the front end, Gemini is your go-to, period. And honestly, this comment from a Reddit thread just sums up the entire situation perfectly. The consensus is that they're different tools for different jobs, like a power drill versus an impact driver. You wouldn't use one for everything, would you? It's the same exact idea here. Okay, so we've covered performance, we've covered personality, but there's one more giant piece of this puzzle, and that's the cost. Let's talk about performance versus what's in your wallet. Just look at this number, 76%.
That is staggering. Anthropic has worked some kind of magic here. Claude Opus 4.5 delivers that top-tier, best-in-class performance while spitting out 76% fewer tokens than its predecessor. And that has a massive, massive impact on your final bill. Now, if you just look at the raw price per token, you'd think GPT 5.2 is the cheap one, no contest. But hold on, you gotta look at the whole picture. Claude's higher price is balanced by that incredible efficiency we just talked about, and this one killer feature, a 90% discount on cached inputs. So if you're working on the same project over and over, feeding it the same context, you're paying a fraction of the price. For a big long-term project, Claude could end up being way, way cheaper.
So you've got different strengths, you've got unique personalities, and totally different pricing models. What do you do? Well, the answer isn't to pick just one. The smartest developers are embracing a multi-model strategy. Let's make this super practical. We can boil it down to 3 main strategies, and it all depends on your budget. If you're running lean, say $50 to $150 a month, Gemini 3 Pro is your workhorse because it's great value. You only bring in GPT 5.2 for the really heavy logical lifting. Got a bit more to spend? Then GPT 5.2 becomes your primary tool. And if you're in an enterprise setting where you just can't compromise on architecture, then you invest in Opus 4.5 as your main copilot, and you use the others like scalpels for specific jobs. And this, right here, this is the golden ticket, the task-based selection matrix. Think of it as your cheat sheet. Building a backend API, your first call is GPT 5.2. Designing a slick user interface, that's Gemini 3 Pro, all day long. Got a tangled mess of legacy code to refactor? That's a perfect job for Opus 4.5's big architectural brain. See? It's all about matching the right tool to the right task.
And all of this leads us to the new reality for every developer out there. The future isn't about picking a side. It's about building a versatile toolkit.
So here's the bottom line. The whole idea of single model thinking, it's dead. It's over. The most effective, most productive developers in 2026 are not going to be married to one single platform. They're going to be expert conductors of an AI orchestra, knowing exactly which instrument to use and when.
Which brings us to a really cool final thought. If the best way to work is by managing this team of specialized AIs, does that mean the best AI developer of the future isn't really a single developer at all, but more like a manager of a team of AIs? Kind of makes you think, doesn't it?